Good morning. I'm a strategic consultant to Edward Hopper House. I'm co-chairing with Richard Rabinowitz of American History Workshop, a project to reinterpret Edward Hopper's childhood home. Our narrative challenge is to conjure for visitors a young Hopper in the place where his artistic vision first took hold. Since we are only at the beginning of the project, this presentation is about establishing our process. One of our guiding principles is to make sure that our story demonstrates the historical and cultural significance of the site. To do this, we will look to the world that young Hopper knew, a particular place at a particular time. In this context, place includes home, family, and neighborhood, as well as the house itself and the Hudson Valley. Time refers not only to the turn of the 20th century, but also to the stages of Hopper's life from childhood through young adulthood. We will look to multiple resources to learn as much as we can about both of these. This is Hopper House circa 1879 and as it is today. The original house was built by Hopper's maternal grandfather in 1858. A second floor extension and partial attic were added in 1882. There seems to have been an interim addition, extending south from the original structure, but we do not know when it was built. We want to learn more about the physical history of the house, especially the rooms as different generations of the family lived in them. At left is the museum's second floor reading room, which was originally the master bedroom. At right is Hopper's drawing of the attic, circa 1900. His rowing machine in the foreground indicates one use he had for the attic. It also served as his second studio. Though the attic deserves a place in the narrative, it is difficult to access. We will have to address that challenge creatively until it can be resolved logistically. A front room was converted to a parlor in 1882. We don't know how the room had been previously used, but we do know that a tiled fireplace was installed there at that time. At left is a photograph of the room as it is today, with the fireplace prominently featured. Architectural details of Hopper House appear in many of Hopper's mature paintings. For example, the parlor fireplace appears in New York interior, which you see at right. But the room that had greatest impact on Hopper's art, and for that reason demands our close attention, was his bedroom. Hopper's bedroom was his first studio and an early subject, as demonstrated by summer interior at center and the artist's bedroom, which you see at right. The room made a lasting aesthetic and arguably psychological impression on Hopper. It is easy to find the configuration of its walls, windows, and distinctive light in much of Hopper's work. Here, in another photograph of Hopper's bedroom, is an important piece of our story. It displays a geometry of light that we see in many of Hopper's most famous paintings. 3 of them are shown below. The one at left, Sun in an Empty Room, was painted just 4 years before Hopper's death. It is testament to the enduring resonance of the childhood bedroom in Hopper's art. For its modest size, just over 2,000 square feet, Hopper House has a surprising number of windows and doors. These photographs give a sense of their effect. Natural light is pervasive. Narrow hallways and half-closed doors do not diminish its presence. At far right is a view of Hopper's bedroom from the second floor landing. It shows only 2 of 8 doors on this angular hallway. The effect can be isolating, at night even ominous. This raises psychological questions that we can neither avoid nor answer. Hopper's psychological and emotional development are fundamental to our story, but our goal is to incite curiosity about the young artist and encourage visitors to arrive at their own answers. Here are the main characters of our narrative. Hopper's father, Garrett Henry Hopper, his mother, Elizabeth Griffith Smith Hopper, Edward, and his older sister, Marion. We want to learn more about the family's interrelationships. General information is available from secondary sources, but we hope that the archive of letters and diaries recently acquired by Hopper House will give us more personal information and insights. In 2018, Hopper House exhibited a site-specific installation by Claudia Alvarez, which was inspired in part by Hopper's paintings of still figures in silent rooms. Morning Sun at left is one of those. The installation was titled Boy in a Room and featured a ceramic likeness of a young Hopper seated on his bed and turned toward a window, as shown at right. Other pieces were of Hopper at different ages, in different rooms, prompting the viewer to reflect on Hopper's long-ago presence in the house. We continue to encourage exhibitions that are specifically responsive to the site as a means of helping us discover more of its inherent story. Boy in a Room also offered meditations on Hopper's drawing, Boy Looking at Sea. It is a compelling work of art, drawn by Hopper on the back of his third-grade report card. The little boy is alone, his back is to the viewer. He is entirely inscrutable as he contemplates the sea. We naturally assume that the artist, himself a little boy, is the subject of the drawing. Alvarez takes this assumption and plays with it. At left, you see her replica of the boy placed in front of the drawing, his back again to the viewer, contemplating an image of himself contemplating the sea. At right, she places the replica in its original context, the boy looking at the water as he stands alone on the shore. Alvarez's small Hopper figures are not meant to seem lifelike. They were crafted and thoughtfully placed to evoke his presence as the boy he was. The young Hopper was fascinated by the Hudson River. He was an accomplished rower by the time he was 8, and his early artwork was preponderantly of boats, ships, and other river themes. At left is a Hopper drawing circa 1900. It is a study of a fisherman surrounded by tiny, detailed studies of sailboats, steamers, and dock workers. Immediately to the right of the drawing is a photograph of the Nyack Yacht Basin circa 1910, documenting a busy turn-of-century Hudson Harbor. The remaining drawings were made when Hopper was between 8 and 12 years old. They are just a few of the hundreds of drawings of boats that Hopper made during that period and convey both his fascination and his emerging artistry. At about the same time, Hopper began painting the river, which seems to have inspired his earliest use of color. Hook Mountain, at left, was painted when Hopper was about 17. Yachting Scene, also set in Rockland County, was painted when he was about 21. In 1914, Hopper began spending summers on the coast of Maine. The Dories, at right, was painted during that first Maine summer and displays the saturated colors that distinguish his mature works. The young Hopper's preoccupation with boats cannot be overstated. He drew them and painted them and visited harbors and cities and small towns to see some of the famous passenger and naval ships of the period. He also handcrafted wooden models of boats, including the 3 shown here. But Hopper as a young boy was intrigued and influenced by many things. He was apparently intuitive about machines. The drawing at top left is a design for a small launch engine that Hopper hoped to patent. He was 16 or 17 years old at the time. When he was about 10, he drew Kite Flying Machine, a more modest but still ingenious contraption. As a boy, Hopper was also captivated by battleships, weapons, and soldiers. The 4 other drawings on this slide are examples of countless early drawings he made of similar subjects. Hopper's bicycle, another machine, was a regular feature of his boyhood. The actual bicycle is shown here in the photograph at left. It seems oversized for a child, but it wasn't for Hopper, who was already 6 feet tall by the time he was 12. This drawing above it might well have been a self-portrait, showing a young man hunched over a bicycle that appears too small for his very long limbs. The bicycle was, of course, a means for Hopper to explore his neighborhood, but there are other sources that place him in his community. For example, study of snowball fight at Wright is one of several drawings dating from his boyhood that depict community scenes. One of the most direct insights to the young Hopper's world is provided by the Three Commodores notebook. It is basically the bylaws and minutes of a club devoted to sailing. Excerpts from the book are shown here. The club had only 3 members. The self-styled Commodores were Hopper, a cousin from the Blauvelt side of the family, and H.R. MacArthur, a relative of the playwright Charles MacArthur. We will want to learn more about the other boys, as they offer clues to young Hopper's social milieu. The Hopper House collection also includes some of Hopper's school notebooks. Here you see examples from his physiology notebook. This is his zoology notebook. In both cases, Hopper's talent and scrupulous attention to detail are evident. We will carefully examine these and other of the young Hopper's papers for insights to his inner world. As we sift through the items in the archive, we are beginning to find antecedents to Hopper's art in works by other members of his family. At left is a watercolor of a steam engine painted by his great-uncle. Its delicate, detailed, and fanciful rendering are not unlike Hopper's early drawings of machines, as shown at right. The archive has some paintings and drawings made by Hopper's mother, whose own artistic efforts may have influenced her son. Here are 2 studies drawn by his mother. The one at left is in its original frame, suggesting that it was on display in the Hopper home. The right is a more detailed study, this time including a tableau that she may have seen many times, a little boy with his back to the viewer, sketching the scene. I hope that I have been able to convey some of the challenge and excitement we feel about reinterpreting Edward Hopper's childhood home. Our elusive and intriguing objective is to demonstrate the lasting influence of place and time on the developing consciousness, sensibility, and aesthetic of a young boy becoming a great artist.